So it was a crazy weekend in college basketball. We saw upsets, rivalry games, blown leads, the whole plethora of college basketball this past weekend. So in this video, I'm just going to be recapping what went down and what the takeaways are from this weekend. So first of all, nobody is safe in the Big 12, and I think that's a good starting point because we saw two of the two longest home winning streaks get snapped by Houston and Iowa State. So the sixth-ranked Houston Cougars hosted Texas Tech, riding a 13-game winning streak and a 33-game home winning streak. And the Cougars were surprisingly fighting from behind for almost this entire game, yet in the end, Texas Tech was the ones who rallied to force overtime. And then in overtime, the Cougars struggled to produce from the free throw line, and Texas Tech took advantage of their opportunities, sealing the win by 23 points, behind 23 points from Chance McMillan in what was a huge upset win for the Red Raiders. Then we had Iowa State, who had a 29-game home winning streak, get absolutely stunned by the now 10 and 11 Kansas State. This loss, like I said, marks the end to this 29-game home winning streak that the Cyclones had, which was second only to Houston, who also saw their win streak come to an end. And this game was truly shocking because the Cyclones never really seemed to fully click, and Kansas State really just kind of led this one wire to wire for most of this game, behind 17 points from Coleman Hawkins and 20 from Doug McDaniel. So really a shocking win for Kansas State. Then we had Kansas suffering a horrendous choke job at Baylor in a game in which the Jayhawks led by 21 at one point. After being nearly doubled themselves by the half, Baylor then outscored Kansas 60 to 30 in the second half to come roaring back and get an absolutely monumental win for them as they look to boost their tournament resume in a year which has been more of a down year for their standards. Next, we're going to move on to some of the rivalries and the bad blood that we saw over this past weekend. And what better place to start than the Tobacco Road rivalry, where Duke absolutely administered a basketball lesson to their arch rival, North Carolina. So right from the get-go, Duke stormed out to an early lead, and they really never looked back, winning by 17 in this one, 87 to 70. Obviously, superstar freshman Cooper Flagg had a great game. He had 21, 8, and 7, while Con Knipple had 22 of his own. This one doesn't come as much of a surprise to basketball viewers, but I think one of the more important takeaways here is whether or not North Carolina is really going to be a tournament quality team this year as well, because we've seen them struggling now, and their record is really just not good, and they're running out of opportunities, especially in a weak ACC, to build up a tournament resume. And it also poses the question if there are really any teams in the ACC that can pose any sort of question to Duke. Are there any teams that can challenge them? Right now, it's not looking like it. So could see this Duke team go undefeated in conference play. Who knows? Then we had John Calipari, Coach Cal, making his return to Rupp Arena for the first time since he left Kentucky to start coaching at Arkansas. What was kind of surprising to me is he was met mostly by boos upon his return. Most of the crowd was booing. I guess that's not that much of a surprise considering he kind of ended on a sour note when Kentucky lost to Oakland last year in the tournament. But it didn't matter because Arkansas got their best win of the season, shocking Kentucky on the road and gaining just their second win in SEC play, which is really huge for their morale because right now they're not in tournament discussions. It's really just kind of been a disaster first year for Coach Cal, so this is a huge win for them. Then we had some serious tempers flaring as Arizona took on Arizona State, their biggest rival. So this one was at Arizona State. And basically, what happened is towards the end of the game, Arizona State's BJ Freeman headbutted Caleb Love of Arizona, and they both ended up getting ejected. And then, moreover, Bobby Hurley, the coach of Arizona State, ended up refusing to shake hands with the Arizona coach Tommy Lloyd, and he was telling his players to do the same, to just like get off the court, don't shake hands with their players. So this one really ended on a sour note. And yeah, then back to the SEC, the best conference in basketball right now. We saw Tennessee put on a defensive clinic in a kind of a get back game against Florida, where Tennessee gave up only 44 points. Despite their star point guards, Kai Ziegler being out, Tennessee was able to generate just enough offensively to back up their great defensive performance. I can see it as an issue being forward if Ziegler remains out. Who's going to step up for Tennessee in the future, but this was a great win for them. Then we had Alabama taking care of business, the number 4 team in the nation. They're now ranked number 3. They got a nice 21 point win over Georgia, including 20 from Mark Sears. Then we had Auburn boasting yet another impressive conference win on the road against Ole Miss. This one was a 10-point win for them to remain undefeated in the SEC behind a 20 and 12 double-double from Janai Broome, strengthening their case as the best team in the nation, although Duke seems to be closing that gap. Then just some other notes. We had a surprising slip up from Michigan State, who's currently leading the Big Ten. They played at USC this weekend, and they just ended up getting surprisingly defeated by a USC team that's not that strong. This marks the Spartans' first conference loss, and it was the end of a 13-game winning streak for them. However, they do still hold the lead over the Big Ten. Then lastly, we see that UConn continues to dominate Marquette. And even in a year with ups and downs for the two-time defending champs, this was a vintage performance on the road against the number 9 team in the nation behind a double-double from Solo Ball and 15 from Alex Caravan. UConn really flexed its muscles in a wire-to-wire victory over one of the Big East bests in Marquette. And this kind of just proves that the Huskies are really never to be counted out. And although they're not having the year that they did have the past 2 years, they're still in this thing and they're going to be a tough out come March. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you want. I haven't been consistent at all with my uploads lately, but hoping to get more consistent with that. See you later.